Okay, hi everyone. So I'm Smithy Q, and welcome now. This is going to be the third game in my course, Smithy's Opening Fundamentals. So this is the third video analysis of the annotated game section. And before we jump in, it's a really fun game, but it's a really short game. And so I wanted to highlight something, a critical concept for Black especially, in this E4, E5 complex. And the idea, it's really, really simple. Black wants to play D5. That's his move. If he can play D5 and nothing bad happens, then that's what he wants. And what do I mean by like nothing bad happening? Basically, let's just say like white does a nothing move, right? If you play D5 right now, woohoo, but now you have to take back the queen. So you just brought your queen out early, and so it's going to be attacked, and so we're violating the principles. We don't want that. But if we can play D5 in a favorable circumstances, that's what you want. And so that's really what you should be thinking. So for example, if we look at the absolute main line, so we've got like the Italian game with bishop goes to c4. So we just imagine, we got this. We got that line where white plays the really fast d4, take, check. Very, very common up to this point. It's like right here. What's the move you should be thinking? The move you should be thinking shouldn't be castle, it shouldn't be d6. Always the first move should be does d5. And here, of course, it does. After take, recapture with the knight. And we can see why this is so good. We have all of your pieces developed. You've got clear space. Before d5, white had that center. After d5, the center is mostly collapsed. This pawn might be more of a weakness than a strength. Black actually wins more games than he loses in the online database, even though the position is perfectly equal. But this idea of trying to push forward with d5 isn't just an Italian game thing. It's everything in e5, e4, e5. So for example, if we were to look at, these various gambits where white plays c3, do you want to take it? Well, you probably could, but d5 is so much simpler. Look, you're getting rid of that center, and it actually makes perfect sense because there is no knight c3 to come in and hit you because the pawn's in the way. It's this same idea. It works in the Danish gambit. You can play d5. Striking back, it's the exact same region. And it actually works if we were to look at the ultimate main line, like the main line of Grandmaster play. It's going to be, don't scroll down, we want to do this. Here we go. We get to this position. If white plays c3, what's black's move? What's the move that basically everyone fears from the white side? That's right, it's d5. In this case, it's actually a gambit, but it doesn't matter. The only thing we need to really understand is that, again, black is going to have easy development for all his pieces. He's fighting back against white's control center, and it's the move. So basically, long story short, if you can get in d5, then you're doing great, as long as nothing sort of bad happens. And this also explains, again, if we're looking back, what are the two most popular moves at both amateur and grandmaster level for white? It's bishop c4, and it's bishop, the Italian game, and bishop goes to b5, the Spanish, or the Roy Lopez. Why is bishop c4 so good? Because it's controlling d5. It's stopping black from playing that. And why is bishop b4, b5 so good? Because if black ever moves this pawn, now there's a pin. And so like this pawn's now defended. And so this, again, is an example of, black wants to play d5, but you can't do it too early. So with that out of the way, I think this is going to help us understand so at least the key moment in this game. This is from Horowitz versus an unknown amateur. Now, Horowitz is a great player from the past, and we're going to reach this position. This is a very common thing, certainly back roughly 100 years ago. It was like 80 years ago when this game was played. When it's a master playing against an amateur, they just try and blow them off the board with tactics. And this is a prime example. White is trying to open the center and then immediately crash through and give black, the amateur opponent, hard problems to solve. After taking, white isn't going to take back with the queen. No, white is going to play knight goes to f3, ready to castle very soon, and really tempting black. Do you want to take this pawn? Want to open the e-file with your king still in the center? Black doesn't do that. Black plays bishop goes to b4. It's check. And so after block, he's going to take, white castles, and then black castles. Black is not getting greedy and letting all these bishops stare down his king. e5 is going to come, chasing away his knight. The computer says that this would be best play, but computers are able to defend perfectly. Most people cannot defend perfectly, and white has a very dangerous initiative here. And I think that makes sense, right? Black has spent some time grabbing pawns. White is fully developed and castle. Okay, almost fully developed. Just needs to get the knight in. Uh, Black needs to be very careful here. So instead of doing that, Black, okay, so he ended up taking the pawn, but then he castled. Excellent. White plays e5. And so, what move would you play here? And perhaps you can contrast that with what move jumps out to you intuitively, and then what move do you think we should play based off my earlier introduction? That's correct. So in the game, Black ended up playing knight goes to e4. Very natural move. The knight was attacked, so let's move it. Let's back up. b5 is the move he wants to play. This is the best move. It's hitting back. And this is a fundamental idea that we want to think about, is that when we get attacked, it's not so much, oh, we should defend, right? Our first thought should be, like, can I hit them back harder, right? It was a Bruce Lee quote. It's like, yeah, they can bruise me, but I'm going to break their bones. If they break my bones, I can take their life. That's the idea. Can I hit back harder? And so this works incredibly well. It's fighting back against center. It's letting Black catch up in development. Right now, this bishop is able to come out. And we could just look at something. Let's imagine white takes. Okay, Black's going to take. This is the computer line. Instead of recapturing that pawn, we're just going to move it over here. Let's imagine this. Both sides just finished developing. Material is equal. Black has got open lines for literally every piece. This pawn is very, very weak. Black is probably going to take it at any point. And so even though material is equal right now, the long-term prospects are likely in Black's favor. So playing d5, it solves all Black's, but I really want you to look at this position and look how easy it is for Black to finish development. If he wants, he can exchange queens at any time, so his king is in no danger. All his pieces have good squares. He's got open files for his rooks. Life's good. Computer slightly prefers Black in this position for what that's worth. But again, this mostly comes down from playing d5. Playing d5, if it works, it's almost certainly the move you want to do. Knight e4. What do you do as white? Now, this is a hard move to find, but it makes sense, again, based off of what I had just said. If white does, anything, Black can play d5 next. So white is now thinking, how can I stop d5? And that's this excellent move, bishop goes to d5, right? You can't put the pawn on a square where your opponent's pieces are. Pawns don't capture that way. It's also hitting this knight. And then after the knight moves, do you see what happened? This knight started here. It went here to here. Now it's on the queen side. It's not much is defending the black king right now, is it? And then after white takes, bishop goes to a5, we can actually see something funny. Every single black piece is on the queen side. There's literally nothing on the king side. Okay, there's a rook. Rooks are notoriously bad defenders, especially on the back rank. Often they just take away flight squares from the king. Contrast it with white. We've got bishop. We've got bishop. We've got the knight that can jump in. Queen can. White can attack with at least 4 pieces, whereas black is defending with 0. It's just pawn cover. This is a very dangerous situation for black, and white recognizes that. White jumps in. It is moving a piece twice, but again, this power of this attack, it is so strong, black has to be extraordinarily careful. Black ends up playing knight goes to e6, bringing another piece in, maybe he's going to exchange off, but then queen h5. Just, again, everything comes in. All right, let's exchange one of these things. But you see the problem here? By exchanging, right now black has 1 defender against 3 attackers. After the exchange, now there's 0 defenders against 3 attackers. Exchanges only help if you're actually reducing the number of the attackers. Instead, we've still got this pressure everywhere. Queen goes to e8. All right, tactics time. So we've got a very good position here. Again, we're attacking with 3 pieces against essentially nothing. This is where, again, treat it like a puzzle. If this were a puzzle, what moves are you going to consider? We know the general idea is checks captures threats. So are there any good checks? All right, bishop takes f7. No, doesn't work. Okay, queen. Okay, yeah, none of the queen sacrifices seem to work. Okay, so the checks don't work. Captures, all the captures, like, okay, no, that clearly doesn't work. Threats. What are the threats that we can think about? And so this would help if you have some basic ideas of mating nets or mating patterns. I'm not going to really belabor this point. If you can find this move, bishop goes to f6. What's the idea? The idea is really simple. If black does like nothing, we're going to play this. Threatening mate. Very, very simple. Very classic. And then after here, again, now we're threatening mate. Very, very simple. Very, very classic. If you recognize this sort of idea, then bishop f6 starts jumping out a bit earlier. Why does this work? It works because this bishop is stuck way over here, and black has no pieces that can come in and defend against here. Remember what I mentioned, how the rooks are just taking away flight squares, right? Like the king would love to be able to start running over this way, but he can't. Everything's in the way. Now, of course, a6 isn't the right move. We would have to ask, what happens after g takes f6? Well, then, it's not so much this. It would actually be this guy now over here. Attacking again here at h7. The second classic way in. Again, the rook just getting in the way. Okay, you could throw a pawn in the way. Doesn't help. We're going to crash in on h7. That's going to be checkmate next move. This also doesn't work because our pawn is covering away the last bit. Why does this work? Again, this works because black has no defenders. And so when you have no defenders, you can start looking for moves that would otherwise seem insane. But if it's creating threats and you've got a strong follow-up, woohoo, you're just going to win the game. What happened? So taking very clearly doesn't work. Doing nothing clearly doesn't work. Black ended up playing h6. One more move to finish the game off. It was the fantastic queen goes to g6. I love this move here. Let's make it brilliant. Ha! Again, we can't take because of the pin. Now we can't take this because of the pin. And that's game. It's going to be mate next move. Nothing you can do as black. Fantastic, fantastic attack. And I want you to notice how easy this came once d5 was impossible. Black cannot play d5, which means this piece can't come in the game. This knight never got noticed. Look how this also came with tempo, right? Black's knight got kicked over to the queen side. Other piece got kicked over to the queen side. And then white was able to recognize that and started the attack immediately. Those are sort of the things. Again, when I'm talking throughout this course, I don't want you to just memorize these little bits. I want you to understand the thinking process. How did white find bishop d5? White found bishop d5 because he knows that d5 was the main freeing move, and bishop d5 stops that forever. And then white noticed that this complete lack of protection over here against the black king. White realized that. White realized that he could attack with more attackers than defenders, and it led to an incredibly beautiful win very, very easily. Maybe not very, very easily, but it was certainly beautiful. And this is one of those games that you would absolutely love to have in your collection. And it's those little thinking habits. So you want to be able to recognize the mistakes. You want to be able to see where your opponent is going wrong. You want to be able to then use your strengths, your advantages. In this case, your huge lead in development and your ability to get more pieces on the king side. If you can do that, if you can recognize that, you're going to, maybe you won't play, the exact amazing tactics like in this game, but you'll be in those really, really good positions in which these tactics are possible. And that's pretty cool, right? All right, so I'm going to cut that there. Hope you enjoyed that. Let me know, the comments, likes, feedback, if you like that, if you like the length, if you want to be shorter, faster, I'm in your hands, basically. Otherwise, that's it. So I'm Smithy Q. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.